the
Okay,
sun.
really quick, I want to share my shirt because it's like my favorite. It says, okay, top here, we are werewolves. Okay, good under shin shot. Nice boob shot. Not swear wolves. Honoring of one of our favorite, one of my favorite movies, What We Do in the Shadows, that has spawned the
Yes.
new TV show. And I have a segue. I didn't mean to jump ahead of you too much. But have you seen Our Flag Means Death?
No, but I've seen ads for it, and I'm like, oh, I
Also by
could
a
watch that.
Taika Waititi film, which is
Yeah.
also what this is.
Yeah.
And if you want to see an example of positive and negative masculinity, like in like a little petri dish cell, this
Mhm.
show is breaking like the gender expectation and gender norms. And it is absolutely fantastic. And it is also probably, in my opinion, one of the funniest shows available right now.
Nice. I do love Reese Darby. He is
Reese Darby is
one of my faves.
a treasure. He's a treasure, mate. And but the I don't want to give anything away because I mean it is streamable. You can watch the whole first season, so you can go and watch HBO Max.
Yeah.
But the the story, do you know what it's about?
Pirates.
Well, it's based on a true story. So as we know, I was once a professional pirate for a certain theme park, and I have like I forget like how
Six
much.
Flags.
Yes, I forget how much, like, random pirate knowledge I have. Like, sometimes I forget, like, how much I actually know about pirate history until I'll be like, "Well, actually." So, this is a real story, but Stede Bonnet was, like, an English nobleman who, like, we'll never know 100% because it was so long ago, you know?
Yeah.
But, basically, one day was like, "I don't wanna be a gentleman, I don't like my family," and he just, like, made a boat and just said, "I'm a pirate now." And he, like,
Isn't that
literally
like every pirate though? They're just like, I don't want to be on land anymore.
Well,
Fuck
like,
it,
the
I'm
thing
heading
is,
out
like,
to
he had
sea.
money, so he, like, made a ship to be a pirate and was like, "I'm gonna go find a crew and be a pirate now," and, like, it was like he didn't, like he just, like, left his whole, and there was no, like, learning how to fight, like, there was no there's just, like, he just went off to become a pirate, and I'm trying to take some creative liberties with the character in the show, Stede Bonnet, but he's actually notorious as, like, being, like, one of, like, the worst pirates in the history of piracy because he was not a
Yeah.
pirate.
Yeah. Makes
But
sense.
this is a true story. He crossed paths with Blackbeard briefly, and for whatever reason, we know this, Blackbeard, like, loved him. And it was like and so, like, this, like, story of, like, the most murderous,
Polar
man
opposites.
was like, "This guy's a hoot!" Like,
Yeah.
like, it was a very brief interlude. It's not like how this show is making it, but it's based off this concept of, like, this guy, the gentleman pirate, crossing paths with Edward Teach, Blackbeard, and,
Mhm.
like, whatever that history is. There's everything in it. There's romance. There's bromance. They play a woman in the show. However, they do mention, like, little hints, but it's we have, like, our first, like, asexual, non-gender person in it. Like, it's a very progressive show, off screen and on screen. And it's one of the Reese Darby really does, like, play such a good example of positive masculinity. Like, he literally, like, their motto is if we have a problem, if we're angry, we talk it through as a crew. Like, things like that. He has, like, sessions like that. But, like, yeah,
He's the leader of the werewolf pack from
yeah,
What We Do in the
exactly.
Shadows.
But it's so funny because there's a part where people are like, there's like he ends up having like really good success with this crew, and at one point, one of the classic pirate is like, "Why do you all like him? Why are you all defending him?" And it's like this example of like what's considered weak and like frou-frou-y actually like
Mhm.
created better loyalty than like any
Yeah.
kind of like strong hand could have done.
He listens to our needs.
Exactly. And I think about how that it is a comedy, but there are moments where it's not done ironically. And I
Yeah.
was actually thinking about that. I finished season last night. They also explores homosexuality. Not like where is that? It explores homosexuality in the sense of like someone discovering that,
Mhm.
but it also explores just it's the one of the first times we get to watch a gay relationship blossom and be true love, not ironically, not to be funny, but it's a comedy. It's so
Mhm.
like, wow, like this is all funny. This is all funny, but we're actually watching a natural, like, will they, won't they? And then do they even know, and then when it is serious, it's serious, but it's still calm. It's like just like so it's a classic
Yeah.
Taika stuff. And I just was like, it's so romantic. I was like crying and stuff. And it's like, but I was like, wow, like I actually remember thinking like this is gonna be my intro for the show tomorrow because like when we did our first toxic masculinity episode, which we'll go over some of the key points from that one, it's just so funny to think that that was only like 2 years ago, and I couldn't even imagine a show like this existing.
Real well, Schitt's Creek was like that, or they didn't have like they were just like
Schitt's
it was
Creek,
just normal to be
that
gay
was a
and
good one
normal to
too.
be
Yeah.
in a gay relationship, and it wasn't like played for laughs at all. They were like, falling in love with each other. So
Well, and I think maybe for this one, it was just a little bit of a depth to it because of the time period. There
yeah,
was when I said to explore homosexuality, that was a big difference. It was like
yeah,
David was gay, or David was what he was, pan,
yeah,
whatever it be. This was there are moments with like men where like you either dallied with men because you were on the ship and there was nothing else to do, or like, oh my gosh, is this me?
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of men who have sex with men on pirate ships because
There's
it's
no
like
way. There's no way
jail.
there wasn't. There's no way
Yeah,
there
there's
wasn't. Yeah.
a bunch of dudes on a ship for 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No way. There's no way there wasn't. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take it back and let's see if you remember some of them. We did an episode, and this was just an audio podcast before we even did our YouTube channel. The
Faceless.
concept of toxic masculinity, and I think it's something we can still revisit, and pop culture,
Mhm,
nerdism, whatever. And we're not talking about real people, we're talking about fictional characters,
mhm.
whatever form, comic book, show, whatever, that are portrayed and how they are extremely unhealthy, not only for women, but for men. Young,
Yeah.
particularly young people growing up and watching stuff and like
Mhm.
really teaching them. We had some examples last time. There's two I still want to touch on, but I've been talking a lot. What is one that whether old or new that you feel like we should address?
Well, see, now there's so many good shows out there, and I want to talk about the positive male
Okay.
role models, or like, okay, so I want to bring up Ted Lasso because it's a great example of you've got positive and negative
Mhm.
masculinity, but
Yes.
then the negative masculinity
Is the
person
villain.
grows and they become a better person. But then there's one guy who
Starts
declines and becomes
positive
a
and
worse
yeah.
person. Yeah.
Yes.
So they have like, you're good to bad, bad to good, and then there's just people who are always pretty consistent. And they have like Roy Kent, who is a good example of pretty positive masculinity, although he is very rough around the edges and he
Mhm.
says the F word a lot, but he respects women. He hates Jamie, but then he comes around to
He's a good dad
teaching
figure.
him and yeah, becoming a role model for him, and instead of just being a piece of crap. And so he grows a little with the show, but he started out, he wasn't like a terrible human being. He was pretty good. And then Ted is just a consistently good guy to
Mhm.
model. And Higgins is like just top tier. You can't get higher than Higgins. So,
Higgins is the Higgins got it all figured out.
yes.
All right.
Yes, he
So like
does.
the one thing that we mentioned in the old ones, and I'm gonna say that like okay, so there is I'm gonna change my lighting here soon. There is an equivalent, I think. How can I explain this? Okay, so I posted this on Facebook a while back, and I don't talk about it too much here, but I have extreme body dysmorphia, like diet pills when I was younger, this and this. Like physically when I look in a mirror, I cannot see what other people see. This
Mhm.
is like, and I've had some other experiences like with like psychedelics and stuff like that, where like I've kind of realized like how bad my body dysmorphia is. And I shared this Facebook post where someone my age was talking about how there's a whole generation of women, and I kind of call us like this like gap generation where we're all still young enough to like fit this like I'm hot, I'm young, I'm this, I'm desirable. But the damage of the late 90s, early 2000s has like basically it's either totally taken like any kind of body positivity from us, or we are all now like essentially like we're young enough to where why are you saying that? You look fine. You're acting weird. Like we don't have the
Yes.
grace period of someone in their 50s who's like, oh, I know it was like that when we know, but now it's not like that anymore. Like there's no
Mhm.
sympathy. There's no sympathy for us. However, the damage is already done because what? First it was heroin chic, and
Mhm.
then it was 6 foot tall, dark, super small waist, D
The
cups,
Kim
no ass,
Kardashian.
and no ass. No, because the
Oh, the opposite.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the Kim Kardashian come into like the mid. You have to remember, like that body frame was not, that
Yeah,
Victoria's
that
Secret
she would have
model.
been shunned in the 90s.
Yeah, and so early 2000s too. Like you look at some of that
Yeah.
style, and it's now we live in a world where that just like necklaces just being all types of silly. We now live in a world where that doesn't matter anymore. But like it's kind of for us. It's kind of like well, I know it's like I'm gonna have to see a therapist now and work through this because like I
Yeah.
like the most formidable years, my most impressionable years were like that. So it doesn't matter if the world has changed. I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
And I think that we are now experiencing that in masculinity. Like 2 years ago when we made that episode, we still had so many modern examples. And now,
Mhm.
what you just said, we're
It's shifted a lot.
yeah, within 2 years, it's crazy. And it's
Yeah.
like, and we're like, well, I want to talk about the positive. I was like, how crazy? But like, so to people who don't quite get this, if you're listening, you need to understand that there is still, though, an entire generation of men that fit in my bubble that they still struggle with what women actually want.
Mhm.
We don't want to be bothered every day on Messenger. Hey, 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 hey,
I
hey,
don't I
hey.
don't think any time period
But
that's
but
always been
but they
unwanted.
but there is the
The
fantasy
dude.
the fantasy of I'm not gonna give up on you just yet, girl. We all know that fantasy. And
Mhm.
we talk in the Notebook. I mentioned Jane the Virgin last time. Like with the Notebook, when he's like, "I'm not gonna get off this Ferris wheel until you say you got set a date up with me," and I'm like, "He's just threatening
Yeah.
to kill himself if you don't go on
Yeah.
a date with him." Like so, like, that
Not a good
was
look.
what men still grew up with. Like, we
Mhm.
don't really mean no, we mean try harder.
Yes.
We've mixed up stalking and aggression with romance.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know what? We're seeing it right now with Kanye West and his love bombing.
Oh, God, Kanye West.
But that's
Please.
the most modern we can't even use this as an example for the show because it's not like but like
It's
people are
not
defend
fiction, it's real life.
people are defending him. People are like, "Yeah, defend your family."
That's not defending your family, that's being a stalker.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
but
I
mhm.
hate it. I hate it. Mhm.
So
I
as
get
we
it.
talk about some of these positive examples and the change, just like I want to remind people, like it hasn't been that long.
Yeah. Kanye is of the generation where that seems romantic and normal, but really it's psychotic and stalkerish. And
Mhm.
I think most recently he was like, I'm on an island getting away from social media. And I'm like, that's good. You should be away from everyone right now and
I
getting
had
help.
I had a friend once. What did she explain to me? She was dating an older gentleman and she broke up with him. And the next day at her office, she came to work and her entire cubicle was head to toe just vases and flowers, like just all of it. And she like walked in and just like stopped. And then like of course all of her coworkers were like, "Did you see it?" Like
So
everybody's like all
romantic.
excited for her. And then she literally told me she goes, and I just like dropped my stuff and went, "Can this day get any fucking worse?" Like, and everybody was like, "Oh," but I was like, what a great example of that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna like surprise her and woo her, and I'm gonna like bombard her with all this stuff, and like it makes you look like the asshole in front of all these people who don't know the whole story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Just, it's, I got that vibe even in like Twilight, which I recently watched.
I just
Um,
rewatched those too. First of all, fire soundtrack. Can't beat that.
but like Edward just like shows up in her room and he's watching her sleep, and that's supposed to be romantic when that's 100% B&E.
He
Like,
he admits it too. He's like, I just have to watch you sleep. When she like
yeah.
looks up and he's there, and then she blinks and he's not there. I was like,
It's like,
oh.
wait, was I just hallucinating? Like, no, he had just broken into your room and was being a creepy stalker. He could have murdered you. Like,
And then he just like dumps her like twice. Like he like there's so many times where he's
yeah.
like,
It's like, I
I don't want
can't.
you.
Yeah. And she's like, I'm gonna go do dumb stuff so that you come see me. And
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like,
that when she's like having her nightmares and she's like, yeah.
God. Yeah.
What
Yeah.
a
I
bad,
get it.
but like also that perpetuates to women that like that behavior is okay.
Yeah.
And those feelings are okay. And it also perpetuates acting dangerous or doing stupid stuff to make the guy come back. So,
Yes.
like, so that movie creates a toxic culture for both men and women. Everybody suffers that one.
Mhm. But it's so entertaining to
I
watch.
can't stop. I can't stop watching it. It's vampires.
It's
Like
like a case study in how not to act.
it's like a train wreck. You're like, I can't stop.
Yes.
Yes. So the positive stuff has really changed. You mentioned
Yeah.
Ted Lasso. You can keep elaborate on that a little bit more if you want to. I talked about our flagmate's death.
You did. But I mean, just go watch Ted Lasso. There's many examples of positive masculinity and men growing out of being a man child into being a responsible, respectable adult human. And it's you love to see it and you love to hear all the buzz about it because it won like Emmys and all this stuff. So
Mhm,
it's like I'm glad it's getting traction because people like to see that. It wouldn't be winning awards and being so popular if they didn't. So put more of that stuff in TV and movies, and more
mhm,
people will watch it. Like, no one wants to watch. I'm blanking on any show with a horrible male actor, but because I don't watch a lot of them, and
mhm.
there's Bridgerton even has positive males, and they're not the greatest because it's
Ish, yeah.
early 1800s, but for the
It was the
time, I'm sure it was.
Regency era. You should. I
Yes,
learned that fact from somebody.
from
Is it you? I guess.
yeah, for the time, I bet that would have blown so many minds
Hmm.
at the time. Like they would have been like, "What? You're respecting this woman this much? Holy shit!"
Little crazy liberal. I will say I think that the new change we've been seeing as well is the in the arc of the Disney films, and I really enjoyed seeing the father figures in Turning Red and Encanto. Those are some
Oh,
real positive males, like both dads. Beatrice, that's the actress's name. Mary Bell's, Mary Bell's dad, and was Camillo and the little boy's name who could
I
talk to
don't
the
know. I
animals.
haven't seen those two. Sorry. I don't have a child old enough to be watching like Disney films, and I have to like watch it by myself or something. I can see you. Other way, I can see you.
Ew, we just made out. What? They're like Oscar nominated.
I know, but like I have so many other like
I'm gonna
crime shows
I'm
to
gonna tell
watch.
you. Actually, I'll say maybe not Turning Red, but your first is ready for Encanto. I promise they'll like it. There's enough music
I'm
where
sure he will.
it would
Yeah.
catch it. Then because the music is great, like it'll be enough.
Listen to a Spotify, Disney Spotify, and it has all the Encanto songs on it. And so he knows all the songs.
Well, anyway, the fathers in that play really good, positive, masculine, like defending their child, but like not telling their child what to do. It was like just like it's almost like it's funny because they almost take a back seat sometimes, like to the story, and like you have to be like, did anybody just hear what that guy said back there? Like we should be listening to that guy, like
They're just
like
like,
it
"You
is.
can do it." And it's like, "What did that guy say?"
And it's like almost like it's like the story of how like that's how most characters are. Right? There's always one like domineering parent, and then one parent who's
Yeah.
like, hey, maybe this isn't great for our kid, but like it's the first time it's kind of been the dads and not the
Yeah.
moms,
Yeah.
and just really good, positive, and like just like how fathering should be.
Mhm.
Especially because these are father to women in both movies.
Yeah.
And it's been really enjoyable watching like that evolution or like how having men support the women in their family, especially Turning Red, in a way that doesn't diminish what they're going through, recognizes like it basically like it they validate what these women are going through, but also helps them realize like it's controllable, it's not a big deal, it's not the end of the world. Without there's never like you need to calm down or you're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's like this
Mhm.
is very big, that's okay,
Yeah.
your feelings are valid, but I'm weak, it's not as big as you think it is, and it just feels big, and I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, like you don't get that. I mean, you get that now, we didn't get that.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a dead mom and an absent father.
And then there was a witch who got mad because he didn't invite her to
Yes.
brunch. Yeah, no,
Yeah. There
absolutely.
was there were no parents. It was just kids on their own fending. It was like Riverdale.
And all those shows like Dawson's Creek and all that, you're like, where are the parents? Like,
Yeah. Although Riverdale does a good job of incorporating the parents, but like most of them are like horrible. people,
They're
except
all
for
horrible.
Fred Andrews, R.I.P. Luke Perry, who was like the
Mhm.
greatest dad, and then he tragically died in real
Doesn't
life,
yeah, very
and it was
sad.
very sad.
Great
Yes,
guy. Is
he
rip.
was.
Rip.
Rest in peace. Great dad on Riverdale. Probably the only good dad on Riverdale. So, yeah.
I still haven't seen it because the ridiculousness of Archie's comic being turned into a drama like that.
It
Eh,
is full of camp, full of ridiculousness, a lot of toxic males, full on Hiram Lodge, Veronica's dad. It's just like the epitome of toxic masculinity. Like just
mhm.
murdering people because they looked at him wrong. Yeah, anyway.
Did he like murder people?
Oh, yeah, there's murder.
Mid. Say it right. Mid.
Mid.
Yeah. No, I think I'm gonna say right now the only mainstream things I see right now that still portray toxic male stereotypes are probably going to be maybe like DC and Marvel movies, and even that's kind of
Yeah. Like the
you know what I
old
mean. My
fashioned
camera
kind
is
of masculinity, or just like the villains are the embodiment of toxic masculinity?
so I think with DC characters and Marvel characters that I see, it's like Henry Cavill's Superman. He could be better.
Which one though? Because I feel like he's different in every movie, but he's
All of
always,
them, they're all like weird and like brooding and toxic for no reason. I don't think Batman even any of the Batmans. I think maybe the only positive masculine Batman was Tim Burton's.
yeah. Oh, it's been a hot minute since I've seen
The
that
classic.
one.
Is the classic. Like I there's something about that type of archetype that we all just kind of like accept. And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that like we need to change it, but
Well, Superman is supposed to be like the goodest guy ever. He's
he was
like,
not this new version.
well, new version is like, yeah, he is a lot darker. He's more brooding. He's very, I don't know, he's very somber. And I don't know if this is just the directors who are like, yeah, I want to make a movie and everything's going to have that filter on it where everything looks kind of like grayish green
Gritty, yeah.
and drab. And Superman's also going to be drab. Or if it's just, no, it's got to be the directors. That's it.
But
It's the
yeah,
director's
but
fault.
yeah, it's all comes down to or the producer. Usually sometimes it's the producers. Like directors tend to have a pretty strong vision and then producers come in and are like, this is what will make money.
Yeah.
I think like even like we know now, like Harry Potter characters that we idolized when we were younger, toxic, like there's a lot of growth that we've had. And I actually applaud Gen Z and a lot of there's been like a big surgence of like Gen Z people watching old shows that were like
Like, we're like, that's an
classics,
okay
cult
show.
classics,
Yeah.
like Seinfeld. And they were like, "What the hell?" And it's like, yeah. Then you go back and you watch. Like when I was rewatching The Nanny, the jokes they were making, I was like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't. What? Like, and I'm
It's
like,
just blatant sexism.
like racism, like everything. And so like it's good that we're seeing that change, and I'm enjoying it. And obviously, there's a long way we can go, but I can't. I mean, things aren't perfect and nothing is solved, but I am
Yeah.
very shocked at the change that we've had in 2 years.
Yeah, it is pretty great. I'll say, we've taken a turn for the better.
Do
And
you have like a character or a moment like that you've recently seen where you're like, where wow, this is amazing?
oh, that is hard because the last like show I watched was Bridgerton, but I am watching the X-Files just on a steady drip.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the X-Files, it did have a few like, oh, because at the end of the X-Files, Mulder is gone, and Mulder was probably like the most sexist on the show, but he wasn't even like that super sexist. Like Scully was always the smartest one in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and it showed. And I recently saw an article where I think it was the producers or the director or someone, they wanted Gillian Gillian Anderson. I don't know how to say her name,
I
and I
don't.
love
I
her
know.
so
Yeah.
much. I don't know if it's Gilly or Jilly, but anyway, Anderson. They wanted her to walk behind David Duchovny in any time they were like moving, and she
Hmm.
was like, I pushed back on that, but it was like hard because women in the industry back in the 90s, you got nothing. Like she had a kid in like the first season, and she was back to work like just a few weeks later
Yeah,
because
that
there
happened to
wasn't any
Buffy a
like
lot too. Yeah.
child care yet. Now, like,
No rights.
yeah,
Hmm.
there's like daycares on sets and stuff like that. And she's like, we had nothing like that. I just had to like
Yeah.
freaking just get out of bed and go back to work. And there was
Yeah,
like
it was
nothing.
wild. And then
Yeah.
that was the big thing with Josh Whedon during Buffy, where that one actress like she revealed she was pregnant and like suddenly like he rewrote everything about her character and he like changed the schedule. Like suddenly she was on night shifts and like all this other stuff. And it was like the second she revealed she was pregnant, like her schedule was suddenly drastically changed and it just like felt like retaliation and that stuff just didn't.
Yeah. Not cool, Joss.
Yeah,
You
Joss.
suck.
You were supposed to be the chosen one.
Yeah.
I like he
I
really like
hate you.
when that happened, I was like, "Oh, we can't have anybody." Like literally, like
Yeah.
if we lose Taika, I'm out. Like that's it. Like what else do we have right now? We have Taika.
We
We
better not.
have
Keanu
we have
Reeves?
John Favreau. Maybe like who are we? No, like directors.
I mean, Keanu Reeves directs all of our lives, so
Keanu Reeves. We're not. We don't even have to like address that. We know what's going on with that. That guy has earned. That guy has like. He's done his dues. Like, but
yeah.
like with you know what I'm talking about, like
Like
you know
people making
and
creators.
people forget like toxic males is that it's we put so much focus on actors in general and like Hollywood and acting or voice actors and like we forget like a majority of male actors are victims as well. Like actors
Yes.
don't
It's
have like
not just women,
it's
guys.
very
It's
hard to
you
get to
too.
like George Clooney status or things like that. Like Selma Hayek's article about Harvey Weinstein, she even shares how she was really good friends with Tarantino and George Clooney. Like she stayed friends with them after doing Still Dawn. And she talks about how she is convinced that her relationship with those two men is the only thing that saved her from like a direct assault because she watched actresses around her who are famous now, which she didn't name them. But she talks about how like I watched this happen to my friends that in her opinion were just as famous. Like because like she had these like the males in her circle that he
Yeah.
respected but like so people feel like actors it's really hard so a lot of the things you don't hear about like the really bad stuff it's producers it's directors sometimes it's like
Mhm.
stunt trainers like things like that like it's they're one of the big culprits in that so like we
Yeah.
need to recognize like it's not just so like when it comes to like not just men it's men and women and so when it comes to like creators we're losing a lot. Like I really think so. We have John Favreau, we have Taika Waititi, we have
Martin Scorsese?
yeah, and he's
Has he had
around,
any
but
bad, like
has he
real
been?
life, has he had any like
But like
accusations or anything?
no, but he also like he's kind of died down. He's getting older. So
Yeah.
like
But like his films are like
like Ron Howard,
iconic.
I would put Ron Howard in another one of those departments. But
Okay.
then Ron
Yeah.
Howard was also a child actor, so like he knew what it was like to
Yeah.
like be worked to the
He
freaking
probably
bone.
was abused.
He actually, do you know that he actually wasn't abused, and it's because
Shocking. It's sad that that's
no,
shocking.
and you know why? Because Ron Howard was one of the only child actors in that day whose both parents didn't work. So he
Did
had,
not work?
yeah, like they both parents dedicated their time to his
Oh,
career.
I
And
see.
that's very standard if anybody freaks out about that. It's actually very standard for parents to become managers to their children because they still need to make an income to like that's they're still responsible for paying the bills and feeding the kid. And usually children actors, they need a full-time manager because they're children.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's very common for most actors, like Amy Schumer, her manager's her sister. Like there is a point where like depending on where you are, it's just safer to pick family.
Yeah.
So Ron Howard's dad and his mom both committed to his career because he got on the Andrew Griffith show. So
He
like he
got
did full
lucky,
time.
man.
But like and his parents were grounded people who like grew up in like this World War era. So like
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why he turned out okay was because he had both parents there like 24/7. But also it was in the era where like they worked their son to the bone because like there were no child labor. Well, there were, but not as many. So like it's kind of like that catch. Like, what are you gonna get?
Yeah.
But like that's another one. He's another one that I would say got it. And his brother was an actor too. I don't remember. I don't think the Culkins. I think it's kind of up in the air. Michael Jackson,
Yeah, I feel like
but I know the Culkins had.
Macaulay hung out with Michael Jackson, but he didn't say anything happened.
I actually believe Macaulay Culkin. I don't think anything happened to him. I think I'm
Yeah.
not saying that the other stuff that's unrelated, but I am
Yeah.
saying that. But he was another one because remember you forget his brother acted, his sister
Yeah.
acted. So there was another situation where the parents were like, when your children is that like you're all
Mhm.
there. Like the Olsons are another one. Like their parents, like those parents produce actors. Now we have Elizabeth Olsen, a
Yeah.
bunch of other stuff. So like it takes like a full time job from a parent. Like we're off topic here, but like so I was looking at a while. So the waitress came touring to Denver, and I had three different friends send me the link to the auditions because there's a child in the movie and they were going to cast locally, which is common for tours. A lot of times tours will cast local if it's the part is small enough because it's just cheaper than paying for a kid to travel across. And it was for a part, and there was like the girl had two lines in the show, and everybody was like, Ariel, 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 my daughter. And I really considered it because it was reasonable enough. And they usually triple cast for children's roles. And literally, like one of the first lines in the audition like rules was parent cannot be present in room during audition. There's a couple reasons why they do that. One, they need to know that child doesn't need the parent there in the background, like
Yeah.
so.
Smile.
And two, stage parents are real and they're very crazy. So they need to make sure the child wants to be there and the parent isn't going to be a problem. Like there is a vetting process to that decision. Like I do understand where they're coming from. But I was like,
Yeah.
nope. And like I had to leave her in a room alone for like 10 minutes in like a panel of people. But like I seeing that just for like a Broadway tour, we're stopping
Mhm.
in Denver for a couple weeks. I was like, the industry is built to separate parents from the people that care for them. So
Yeah.
that's how we get a lot of those characters like that. So I'm not condoning the continuation of the cycle, but then when I see creators like some of these producers and writers carry out that cycle and become toxic and kind of ruin things for all actors, both male and female or whatever in between, it's like, damn, the whole system's built to be like that. It's changing a lot, especially with the Me Too movement, but
Yeah.
we create these toxic males in real life and then they carry that over into their work.
Yeah. It's a real downer to say
This
the
is a
least.
real happy episode. This is our Christmas special, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
and
Merry Christmas.
then with that, yeah. But like I just said, it's getting better. And I'm really
Yeah.
excited. I think people like Manuel Miranda are changing it.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
right? I think we're seeing a lot of.
Well, we don't know what he's like behind the scenes.
Oh,
He could just be.
he's super great. No, he's great. He's great.
I hope so.
It's got to be right.
I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
He
Like, yeah, he's good, like,
was
in
raised by
front.
a single mom. I'll tell you this: most actors who are raised by single moms tend to
Okay.
be freaking awesome. Like who's also like super great and people hate him. It's like kind of like Guy Fieri, Pitbull. Pitbull's like a
Yeah.
sweet, like, and he like has
Yeah.
stories of like being raised by like sometimes like it's like if you pretend to kind of be an asshole in real life, you're actually the best. And then if you
Yeah.
pretend to be like super sweet in real life, you're
Yeah.
kind of an
He's
asshole. I
at,
mean, there's
yeah.
no evidence, but like,
Yeah. He gives like all of his money to charities and like community organizing, and it's like
mhm.
he just makes like dumb club beats and
Yeah.
he just shows off his wealth and whatever. But then he's like, I'm gonna take all that cash and put it back into my community and just be a good guy, and no
Yeah.
one's gonna know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, honestly. So that's that. So it's interesting. I'm happy to see that even though maybe behind I think actually I would say that behind the scenes and in front of the scenes things are getting better. It doesn't mean that like, everything's solved, guys.
Yeah.
Sexism solved. We're great, but
We've achieved world peace, everyone.
thank you. We've had and world peace. Now it's been pretty good. So I would say for me, I'm going back to Our Flag Means Death 'cause I just watched that, but that's not what I was watching. I was watching something else recently, and like a male character did something, may have been in Encanto, and it was just
Could
that
be.
it was so good. But it was just that moment of like watching all that and being like, wow, like we're somewhere else now, and I don't know when we got there, but I'm realizing we're here, and we have a lot to go, but I don't know. It was nice. It's refreshing
Mhm.
considering what we talk about that we're 2 years revisiting a subject and we have completely different things to say.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to add to my X-Files notes
Sorry.
that there is a lot of, I mean, it's it's a sign of the times, but it's like the male partners like John Doggett or Fox Mulder will stick up for and stick their necks out for the female partners like Scully, Mulder will always vouch for Scully and even Skinner, like Skinner's always like getting shit, but he's like I've always got your back and he's always there for like Scully whenever she needs anything. Even when she doesn't, he's just like there looming in the
Yeah.
background. And then like in the later seasons where Mulder and Scully are like off doing their own stuff and it's John Doggett and Monica Reyes, like they look out for each other and there's a lot of like Monica and Scully talking together on screen and they're not talking about men at all. They're just like talking about the assignment, talking about whatever. And so it passes, what is it, the Bechdel test or whatever.
Mhm.
And this was like 20 plus years
Yeah.
ago. So it was like way progressive, but I feel like I watch a lot of 90s stuff and there's just like more women just like floating around in these shows and it's like there's just like more diversity like around and now it's like every single person is like this hot model just like strategically placed in the background and no one is like out of place or just
Mhm.
like it doesn't feel real like stuff in the 90s maybe it was just a little lax and they just had like extras and they were just like come in and stand in the background and now they're like we need runway models in the background only.
I will say this though, I've noticed kind of that joke when the memes of like 13-year-olds that are contouring and it's like, no, you wear your blue eyeshadow and your braces.
Yes.
Like I will say that I think the beauty standard has changed dramatically. Oddly enough, like
Yeah.
even though it's almost like I actually think this. So I think that the beauty standard for a body has completely evolved,
Oh
but
yeah,
the beauty standard for a face has gotten even harder.
I believe it.
So it's like we have these like standards now of like you need to look like a model. It doesn't matter what size you are, but this better be on point. And this
Yeah,
better be on point.
like I remember seeing skin texture on Scully in some shots. And I'm
Not
like,
anymore.
you would not get that now. Everyone would be eggshell smooth. You wouldn't see a single pore. And I was just like, wow, she's like, you can tell she has texture on her face.
Yeah, but like
Like,
you wouldn't get that.
it's
You don't get that on Rebecca and her prom photo on her Instagram.
no,
You know
no,
what I
no,
mean? Like
no.
it's just the standard. I
Even,
remember.
yeah,
No, I'll say I remember now. I was it was What We Do in the Shadows, the television show.
yeah.
That was one. Laszlo is, I would argue, one of the best positive masculinity roles on television right now.
Yeah. Laszlo?
Yes.
The guy who tries to murder people for that farting witch hat?
Yes. Because Laszlo unapologetically loves his wife. They're both completely open about their sexual deviancies and support each other.
Mhm.
Laszlo does not like his thing is like when he's like everybody fucks sucks ducks this and this like and he's like just like openly proud of being pansexual and just very like it's like when he's a conceited asshole it's just because he's a conceited asshole.
Yes, I see that. Mhm.
So Laszlo is just somebody that maybe he's
He's
not like a role
comfortable
model,
and that
but like
that
I'm not talking about being a role model. It was like
yes.
wow, like that's something that's just so casually like brought about. Like it wasn't a conversation. There wasn't internet freaking out about it. Like,
Yeah, he
mm,
just is. And I think being comfortable in your own skin has a lot to do with it
yeah, you're not threatened by
because if
stuff.
you're yeah, then if you're not confident then you're threatened by
Well, you need to watch Our Flag Means Death. It takes positive masculinity to like another level. I can't talk about more how much that show is like.
All right. I'll watch it.
Mhm.
I'll watch it. I'll
It's
watch it.
good. You guys watch the first season together. It's all up already up.
All right.
All
Good.
right.
We'll do it.
Anything else you want to add to this episode?
Stay positive,
Stay
everyone.
positive, be good examples, be good fathers, and be good partners and good examples, and be supportive so that males don't have to become a stereotype. Give them the opportunity to grow. That's what we can do. This is going to be a two-way street.
Yes.
Also, keep it real. It got so serious, I had to change it. All right,
Okay. Is that it?
that's it. That's it.
Okay.
And that's the
I
end of
thought
the
you were gonna end it on that. So I
recording.
was just like,